Good evening. The federal government of Nigeria has made it crystal clear that there will be no retreat, no reversal, and absolutely no going back on the implementation of new tax laws set to take effect on January 1st, 2025. This announcement has sent ripples across the nation, with citizens, business owners, and economic analysts all scrambling to understand what these changes mean for their pockets and the future of the Nigerian economy. The government's firm stance comes at a time when Nigerians are already grappling with economic pressures from every angle. The cost of living has soared, fuel prices remain a contentious issue, and the exchange rate continues to fluctuate in ways that make planning nearly impossible for the average citizen. Now, with these new tax laws on the horizon, many are asking whether this is the right time for such sweeping changes, and more importantly, whether the system is ready to handle what comes next. According to recent reports, the tax reforms are part of a broader strategy to increase government revenue and modernize Nigeria's tax administration. The government argues that these changes are necessary to fund critical infrastructure projects, improve public services, and reduce the country's reliance on oil revenue. Officials have emphasized that the tax system as it currently stands is outdated, inefficient, and riddled with loopholes that allow too many people and businesses to avoid paying their fair share. The new laws aim to close these gaps, broaden the tax base, and ensure that everyone contributes to nation building. But here is where things get interesting. While the government paints a picture of progress and fiscal responsibility, many Nigerians are not convinced. Small business owners in particular are expressing serious concerns about how these new tax obligations will affect their operations. In a country where businesses already struggle with irregular power supply, poor road networks, and limited access to capital, adding more tax burden feels like pouring fuel on an already raging fire. Some entrepreneurs have openly stated that if the implementation goes ahead as planned, they may have no choice but to downsize their workforce or, in extreme cases, shut down entirely. The timing of this announcement is also raising eyebrows. January 1st is literally days away, and yet many Nigerians still do not fully understand what these new tax laws entail. There is a widespread feeling that the government has not done enough to educate the public or provide clear guidance on compliance. Tax experts have been working overtime to interpret the new regulations, but conflicting information and a lack of official clarity have only added to the confusion. How can citizens and businesses comply with laws they do not fully understand? This question is echoing across social media platforms, town hall meetings, and even within government circles. Another layer to this story involves the technology and infrastructure required to implement these tax laws effectively. Nigeria's tax administration has historically been plagued by inefficiency, corruption, and poor record keeping. The introduction of new laws without addressing these foundational issues could lead to chaos. There are concerns about whether the Federal Inland Revenue Service and other tax agencies have the capacity to handle the increased workload, process returns accurately, and ensure that collected revenues actually reach government coffers instead of disappearing into private pockets. On the flip side, some economists and policy analysts are defending the government's decision. They argue that Nigeria cannot continue to operate with such a narrow tax base, where a small percentage of the population and businesses contribute to government revenue. In many developed countries, taxes fund everything from healthcare to education to security, and citizens see tangible benefits from their contributions. The hope is that with these new tax laws, Nigeria can move toward a more sustainable economic model where public services improve and infrastructure development accelerates. But this optimism is tempered by the reality that Nigerians have had similar promises before, only to see little or no improvement in their daily lives. The political dimension of this issue cannot be ignored either. With elections always on the horizon in Nigeria, decisions like this one often become political footballs. Opposition parties are already criticizing the government for imposing new financial burdens on citizens during such challenging economic times. They argue that instead of squeezing more money out of struggling Nigerians, the government should focus on cutting waste, fighting corruption, and making better use of existing resources. Supporters of the government counter that tough decisions must be made for long-term progress, even if they are unpopular in the short term. If you have been following this story and find yourself confused or concerned about what happens next, you are definitely not alone. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates as we continue to break down these developments and explain exactly how they will affect you and your family. We are committed to keeping you informed every step of the way. As January 1st approaches, all eyes are on the federal government to see whether this implementation will proceed smoothly or descend into the kind of chaos that often accompanies major policy shifts in Nigeria. Will there be last-minute adjustments? Will the government offer any grace periods or support systems to help citizens and businesses transition? Or will it be a case of sink or swim? These are the questions keeping many people awake at night, and rightfully so, because the answers will shape Nigeria's economic landscape for years to come. For now, the message from the government is unambiguous and unyielding. The new tax laws are happening. January 1st is the date. No negotiations, no delays, no exceptions. Whether this bold move will ultimately strengthen Nigeria's economy or create more hardship for its people remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the conversation is far from over, and every Nigerian has a stake in what happens next.